Education and Commerce Committee meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Alderwoman Behringer.
Present.
Alderman Moore.
I saw him in the hall.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Present.
Chairwoman Cruzen.
Here.
4 present, we have a quorum.
Good. Thank you all for being here this morning. We have 3 board bills before us this morning. The first board bill is board bill number 40. And I believe that you all got the executive summaries yesterday, I think it was. And this is for a wine concession agreement with Taste Inc. They do business as Vino Volo at the airport. And Rhonda and
Robert Salarado, I'm the Properties Division Manager for the airport.
Robert Salarado, would one of you like to talk us through this?
Certainly. It's a wine bar concession in Terminal 2 near Gate E18. There'll be 400 square feet of concession space, and it also awards the concessionaire 100 square feet of storage space on the apron level of Terminal 2. The term of the agreement is 5 years, beginning at the end of a 6-month build-out period. The minimum annual guarantee ranges from $60,000, pardon me, in contract year 1 up to $80,000 in contract year 5, and that is versus 10% of gross receipts. This concession was competitively bid out. The airport received 2 bids, and you'll note that we are taking the highest and best bid. We are not taking the absolute highest minimum annual guarantee bidder. The 2 bidders were Vino Volo and Host Incorporated, and airport staff reviewed both concession proposals and feels that Vino Volo Incorporated is the highest and best bidder. Vino Volo is a known brand in airports. They have right now 31 airport locations, and their customers will seek them out, and we feel that this is the best customer experience for the airport and will result in the highest revenue. We respectfully request your approval.
One thing to tag, I'm sorry.
No, go right.
One thing to tag on was that when we looked at the concept, we do not have a wine bar currently today, and so we were very specific that we wanted a wine bar that was a true wine bar. And with the HMS Host concept, it was sort of a generic and didn't really give the feel of a wine bar. They certainly called it a wine bar and they served, but it didn't have what we consider to be a true wine bar with servers that are educated in wine and that are, know the system. So there have been great reviews all throughout North America. There's a lot of locations in Canada as well. And there's been great reviews from the airports as far as the customer experience and their knowledge of the products, so.
Okay. And Vino Volo will start out paying $60,000 a year in rent for this really tiny space. 400 square feet is a very small spot. Going up to $80,000 in year 5, correct?
Right. And that's versus the percentage fee. Hopefully they go over that,
Sure.
the 10% percentage fee. That's the minimum.
It's not technically a rent, it's a percentage of their receipts, so.
10% gross receipts.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that,
So if they sell more, we get more, and if they
Yes.
sell less, we get less.
well, we do get the guaranteed minimum,
Okay.
Right.
so.
Good. Okay. Are there any questions, Alderwoman Behringer?
You said this is gonna be the first wine bar in Terminal 2,
In the airport period.
in the airport period. Okay, so then do we have, if this is successful, are they looking at maybe considering Terminal 1, doing the same?
Well, I think we would have to find a location and put it out for bid.
Okay.
So they can't just come to us and say, I want more space.
Right.
So but I think if it is successful, we would look. One of the things that they like very well, and they tend to go to where Southwest markets are, and so Terminal 2 is a Southwest market. So what they have found, and it kind of goes against the grain of what a lot of people think, because it's kind of a high-end wine bar, and they look and say, well, most of Southwest customers don't do that. They prove them very wrong. They say that's one of our best customers. Yeah, me too. And so they looked for the concentration of Southwest customers, so that is why Terminal 2 was attractive to them to
Okay.
bid. But I think if it is successful, and we have locations, we would like to look at Terminal 1 on one of the other concourses if we've got applicability down the road.
Okay. No, I'm just, woohoo, great.
Alderman Moore?
Is that you, Rhonda?
No, it is
Okay.
not. She's short.
Just checking.
Hey.
And Donna asked my question, is there presently alcohol in the airport?
Yes.
Who serves that?
Well, all of, the Pasta House does, we have Schlafly does, 1876, which is an Anheuser product does, Chili's does.
Brewmaster's Tap.
So we have control over irate customers drinking too much. Do we have a limitation on people get boarding the planes that sit
Oh,
there
yes, oh, yes, we have,
And booze and booze and booze?
yes, we definitely have control over that.
Okay, I just wanna know about the drinking. That's fine. No more questions.
Alderman Vaccaro?
Yeah, I probably have a bunch of questions. And I know even when I was on the committee, we always asked, but the bid from Host, it would be nice to know what that was, but how much more was it?
It was approximately about $50,000 more over 5 years. So it averaged out to about $10,000 a year more.
And I know Host, I mean, just when I was out there, I know they have the minority participation. In fact, they have a strong minority participation. Does this company have a minority participation?
Yes.
It does.
What percent?
About their ACDB participation on this will be 5%.
5, and Host percent of minority participation?
Host, when they bid, remember it was a separate bid, so it wasn't applicable. Their participation on their other agreement wasn't applicable here. And when they bid it, they bid it with minority participation in the form of a joint venture, and we couldn't determine. They didn't submit their ACDB utilization paperwork by the deadline, and so we couldn't determine what their percentage was going to be.
But they have, if I remember right, they have a pretty high percentage in all the other stuff they do at the airport.
They do. Now, this is independent because this wasn't through their normal concession. This was a direct with the airport as an independent. We also have Amber Gooding. Amber's with our DBE office, and Amber can answer additional questions. Her team reviewed it.
When we evaluated it, they did have the opportunity to put forth their plan for it, such as Vino Volo did, and they did not, which was surprising to us because they do have a joint venture in their other food and beverage areas, but they did not submit the required paperwork for us to evaluate the credibility or really the worthiness or how they would use that. And so we did have to deem that as really as non-responsive in that area or zero participation with it. So in the face of it, initially this bid went out as a zero requirement. We handled this, the goal setting of it, under the FAA rules that ask us to really, from time to time, to look at concession opportunities and have what we call a race neutral goal on it. And they came back, Volo came back, even though they were not required to, and proposed 5%. So we really feel like this is a really good opportunity. What it does is it allows us to test how participation comes into the marketplace, even when it is not required to.
Well, that would almost lead me to my next question. Given everything that's going on, why would we have a zero minority participation on anything going on?
Well, the federal program's view in terms of goal setting is very different from that on the local side of the program. The federal program really requires is that, and it's true really, we'll see this more in our disparity studies, is that goal setting is to help equalize things and bring people to the table. And in concepts such as this is a specialty concept, a little bit different, it's untested and so forth. We were already, the airport, exceeding our DPE, ACDB participation in the airport concessions. So under this, I am required as the liaison to evaluate every opportunity that comes up. And in this one here looked to be a good opportunity, which I did consult with FAA on this, our liaison, and they felt the same way, that this one was a good one for us to test that market out. When we hand in our reports annually, they look at each and every one and what our goal setting, and we have to justify what it is. And there was just no precedence to come up with a goal on this. So in fact, we will get very high marks for this one because Vino Volo came back and said 5%, even though it was a zero goal.
And remember, I mean, for them to come up with it is challenging because they're a wine bar. That's what they serve as wine, so
So-
participate.
Where are they getting their 5% from?
It will be in supplies, and there's also some janitorial involved and things like that, and potentially some catering. Vino Volo's model is to use a local type of food service for small plates, appetizers, things like that. So they have proposed utilizing some folks in that area.
So their minority participations, mostly they come from janitors and
And
waitresses
food
and stuff
service
like
and
that.
supplies,
Not
and
waitresses,
supplies,
not
not
waitresses,
waitresses,
not
no.
waitresses.
Food catering, they will bring in, they don't actually cook meals there on site, they will have them catered, they will have them catered in.
They do like tapas plates, I mean, the cheese plate,
Yeah.
cheese plates, sausage plates, so that type of product.
I guess I have concern, only because I knew hosts, you know, from when I was there, I don't know them personally or any of their board members or whatever, but I do know they have a strong minority participation, in everything they've done, and I,
Well,
So-
again, in this one, they
Except
had
that they
zero
didn't
participation.
in this.
well, they didn't, well, we don't know because they didn't turn their paperwork in.
Well, that's
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying,
It's
I'm
not
just
our
going
fault.
based, well,
Okay.
it may not be our fault, but I'm just saying that's my
Sure.
concern, and then their bid was higher, and we're gonna take it. But anyway, that's really all, I mean, that's all my questions.
Okay, great, thank you. Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions.
Entertain a motion? Somebody would like to make one to pass this bill out?
Oh, I make a motion to pass board bill number
40.
40, thank you.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman Behringer,
Aye.
Alderman Moore,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Vaccaro,
I'll pass around one time.
Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Ingracia,
Aye.
Chairwoman Cruzen,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
I'll say no, and we'll just let it go from there, it'll go, so I'm not gonna worry.
4 aye votes, 1 no vote.
Okay. By our vote, we passed out board bill 40 with a due pass recommendation.
Yes.
That too, right? Thank you. Okay. Okay, the next board bill we have before us is Board Bill 41. And Board Bill 41, let me find my executive summary here, is a bill to accept reimbursement from MoDOT for some services. Would you guys like to tell us more about that?
And I'll introduce, this is Antonio Strong, for those of you who have not met Antonio, he's our Assistant Director of Finance. So he's been with us a little over 6 months now, because we just completed his probationary period. So he came to us from Missouri Water, very knowledgeable and very helpful, so.
Always good to have a strong.
Yes, it is. And he is a CPA,
Yes,
so.
you've heard that 1,000 times, right?
Yep.
And a CPA, that's great.
So,
Okay,
good afternoon, TNC committee members. This is a grant that's offered by the Missouri Highway and Transportation Committee. This grant has been offered since 2008. It's only been offered 3 times since 2008, 2009, and now we have it being offered right now. This is $2 million in grant funds that were available. It's generated from fuel sales tax dollars. We applied for $657,000. We received $592,000. But this also does have a 10% matching component, which will match about $65,000. This will help cover about like 80% of the department budget and help defray some of the costs incurred by our Air Service Development Department. That department is responsible for developing, implementing, and administering short and long-term initiatives aimed at expanding St. Louis' position as a primary commercial service airport in the region. What we have seen within the past few years, well, I would say about like 15 years, what we have seen is airlines would market their service and they would market their airports. We have seen some of them pull back from their marketing and they only market at their large hubs. And, you know, as St. Louis now is just more of a medium hub airport, so we have to go out and market our own airport ourselves. And so we have our Air Service Development Department that is responsible for that. And we have actually seen success. Recently, you may have heard that Southwest has announced nonstop service to Orange County. That will come November 22nd. Southwest also announced service to Austin, Texas, June 28th. Alaska Airlines, Portland, Oregon, July the 1st, and Air Choice One, Jackson, Tennessee, June 22nd. So you're seeing some success with our Air Service Development Department, but we need funding in order to continue this success. Some of the things that our Air Service Development Department does is we do quarterly updates. We customize marketing materials to airlines that we would likely serve St. Louis. We solicit support from our regional and business leaders. We try to get business from our catchment areas. We also go to where the airlines are. We go directly to their meeting locations. Some of the places that we go to, Air Service Partnership events, St. Louis Direct Connect events, and any other corporate office meetings or networking events. So this grant will help offset those costs incurred to make sure we market Lambert as a leader or primary air service within this region. So with that, I request your approval for Board Bill 41.
Thank you. This is reimbursement for funds already spent, correct? Because that's the way the grant worked.
Yes.
And so these funds have been spent, and luckily you'll be
Well-
able to,
Not all of them.
not all, but you'll be able to get reimbursed for them and then feed this year's or next year's, however you say it, yeah.
Right.
Okay, great. Questions, Alderwoman Behringer?
Thank you. I just wanna make sure, I just wanna clarify so I know I understand. So this is us selling to the airlines.
Well, it's marketing and everything. So it's not just the airlines, it's also the cities. So a good example is Grand Rapids was added about 2 years ago. And to ensure that that market stays viable, we did a partnership where we did an event in Grand Rapids for the businesses and an event in St. Louis for the businesses to understand the value of the market. Now, the airline joined in on that and participated in it, but that marketing event was really to the communities to try and get the business leaders in both communities to support that flight so that we could keep it long-term. So what the Missouri Highway Transportation requires is that it's used to market the airport, both to communities and to the airlines. So it can be used for either.
Okay. And then, do we contract that work out?
No, for the most part, a little bit of it, some of it. Brian Kinsey is our air service development person. So he has 2 contracts. He has Meet and Hunt. Meet and Hunt is the arm that helps him to do a lot of the statistical data. And then the other contract currently is with H&L. It's a marketing firm here in St. Louis. And H&L will help him host some of the events. So they have expertise in that. And so they will, in some of the events, they'll do the setup, they'll, sort of figure out what it is we want to have catered at the event, and they'll do some of that. But a lot of it's done internally.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Moore?
No.
Alderman Vaccaro?
No questions.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions.
I just would close by saying, this is great that we get reimbursed for this, that it helps us to build our fund to do more marketing. Certainly, we all know, and I know Rhonda and all of you have worked on this, we need more flights to more places more often, more direct flights to more places more
Amen.
often, preferably. And, the more of those flights we have, the more able we are, I think, to bring in businesses or to support business expansion, because we're always fighting that.
Right. And every public airport in Missouri applied for the grant and also a grant sum. We did have the largest grant, obviously. So Kansas City, which is not as big as we are, but I think their total was only 200 and some odd thousand, where we had a significant larger amount.
Good job.
So,
So I'll make the motion.
Second.
What would that motion be?
Pass Board Bill 41 out with a due pass recommendation.
Perfect, okay, and we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Unless you want previous vote.
Well, no, because I was a new one, the previous rule, I won't be on this.
Alderwoman Behringer,
Aye.
Alderman Moore,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Ingracia,
Aye.
Chairwoman Cruzen.
Aye.
5 aye votes to pass.
Okay, Board Bill 40 passes out with a due pass recommendation. So now we have before us Board Bill 55, which is a very thick but also exciting board bill. And Rhonda or Robert?
I'll let Rob present. I'll answer most of the questions.
I'll present, just so the board knows what the area we're talking about. It's the northern track site, and it is the eastern half of the northern track site, which is from about here up to here.
And those buildings are the old
original McDonnell Douglas buildings where they did the fighters.
And the
Yes.
airport owns the buildings.
The airport
Has
owns the
for a
buildings,
long
yes.
time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're requesting board approval for the lease of approximately 49 acres of the airport-owned land. The site was formerly used by McDonnell Douglas and Boeing as a manufacturing facility. The term of the lease agreement is 20 years with 2 10-year renewal terms at the option of Binational Gateway, who's the lessee. The total lease term possible is 40 years. The use of the leased premises will be for an air cargo handling facility and related services. The initial ground rent will be 35 cents per square foot. The agreement includes CPI index increases every 5 years throughout the term of the agreement. Rents are phased in concurrent with the development of the site. The development will occur in 3 distinct phases, beginning with approximately 33 acres in phase 1 that is due to be complete by the end of the 3rd year, and going through phase 3, which is due to be complete by the end of contract year 7. The total premises are 2,123,000 square feet, and we respectfully request board approval for this lease.
And who's the lease to?
Binational Gateway Terminal LLC.
And what will they do there?
They will do air cargo handling and air cargo FBO operations, and they're going to operate the air cargo handling, and they also hope to exercise rights for a dual customs facility
And that would be dual with who?
with Mexico.
So there's 2 things, there's actually 2 separate things ongoing. Before, we brought forward to you an agreement for Mr. Farias' company to do the handling for the dual customs, because we have applied for that. We've been aggressively trying to get that, and it's our hope that we, by the end of this summer, will be granted the right by the state of Mexico to operate a dual customs facility here. In addition to that, this is a separate development agreement, although with the same individual. It is a separate development agreement to bring a fairly significant size warehouse distribution here. Within that warehouse, there will also be a cold chain facility. When we talk about cold chain, that is to help grow the market on those items that need to be refrigerated when they transfer. So items like fruits, flowers, vegetables, pharmaceuticals, things of that nature. So he will put a cold chain facility within this structure itself. And it's our belief and our hope that we'll see the initial flights coming out of Mexico as a result of this development agreement, but that we could grow that to not only the NAFTA corridor with Canada, but also to Europe and beyond. So we think it's a great partner to be with. One of the things that this is not an airport investment. We are the landlord, so we have the lease. As you heard Rob say, it's 35 cents a square foot. That's the most that we have of any landlord, just in terms of pure land. We're not building or using any airport dollars for the infrastructure. He's doing that all himself. The first phase is approximately $77 million. Over the 3 phases, his anticipation is about $150 to $170 million of build out. So he's investing significant cost in the infrastructure. Obviously, that becomes ours at the end of the lease, which is another nice thing. This is currently a building that has a lot of issues in it. It's a building that we have for a long time been trying to find funds to either tear down or renovate to make it presentable. And so in this scenario, we will get that and not on our dime. So we're very excited about that opportunity going forward with this particular company. The other thing that we believe is that as we try and grow the trade among, not only in the St. Louis region, but through the state, that this will be a good opportunity to do that. We've partnered with the World Trade Center, and the World Trade Center has been very aggressive with us in trying to get companies who currently may not be doing business in Mexico because they're scared of trading, they're not sure how to do it. So the World Trade Center is doing a lot of outreach to companies to see if there's interest and help them learn and understand how easy it is to export. So, you know, these are products that can go on our planes as they go southbound. We also want to fill the planes up, obviously, both ways, just to make the adventure more successful.
And Rhonda, how long have we owned this property? The city or the airport owned the property, and how long has it been vacant?
It's been vacant, I think, 15 years.
We owned it in 2000, well, I purchased it in 2002. It's been vacant since 2004.
Yeah, so not quite 15 years, yeah. So, and it's just, it's a building that is deteriorating, rapidly.
Sure.
And we currently have to spend dollars to maintain not necessarily the facility, because we haven't been maintaining it very well, but the land around it secured, and so we're spending dollars as well, not just the lack of revenue coming in today, but we're spending dollars on that area to keep it secure and safe because of the proximity to our airfield. So we no longer will have that expense as well.
Question just about how cargo customs works.
Okay.
So if, this would be somebody from Mexico importing goods here, and the customs would be done at this building, provided we get the dual customs
That's
clearing,
correct.
right?
That's correct. Oh, I'm sorry,
And-
Antonio, that's mine. Can you turn that off? I apologize. It's probably in my purse. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I had it off. Yeah,
I'm scared to dig in that
Yeah, I
purse.
know. Thank you. I'm sorry. The dual customs, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly. I apologize. So the dual customs that we've applied for, the United States and Mexico came to an agreement a few years ago to try and increase trade and have a friendlier relationship between the two countries. And the right to do a pilot program to test dual customs, meaning that Mexico customs would come up here, and side by side, we would have US customs and we did have Mexico customs, and product coming in and out could be cleared here. The agreement with the country of Mexico is also that eventually a facility would open up down there as well, somewhere, that would allow a clearance facility, whether it be for passenger or for cargo. But the pilot program, which is what we're seeking, would be the first brought here into the US, and we believe it would give us a significant advantage. So for people like Emerson, who have a plant here and who have a plant 40 miles outside of Toluca, which is where a lot of the product would be initially coming from, they ship their product today mostly via train, back and forth. A lot of it's small components, some of it is pieces that are used in the automotive industry as well. And today, because there really isn't a good air base, and because there's a lot of challenges with getting product cleared as it enters into Mexico, they do most of it via the truck trade today, and they're looking to change that. So they're a particular company that would take advantage of the air service. And both they import to Mexico and they export out of Mexico to plants here. So they're a company that would do it both ways.
And would we also clear some cargo that's destined for another location within the United States, so that?
Yes, so if a plane is coming, if a plane is going southbound into Mexico and is pre-clearing here, a cargo flight could come from anywhere in the US, land in St. Louis. So say there's a flight that was headed from New York originally to Mexico City, and was gonna get cleared in Mexico City. That flight could come to St. Louis, get pre-cleared in the US, and not have to deal with clearance customs once it gets to Mexico.
Or not even have to go to Mexico City, to be able to
That's
go
right.
directly to a smaller
That's
airport
correct.
in Mexico,
That's correct.
so that,
It could go directly to wherever the end user wants it to fly to. So we think that too.
does the, when you clear customs, does the cargo have to come off the plane, or do customs go on the plane to clear
It
it?
comes off in most cases.
In most
They
cases, it
get
comes off.
manifest, everything is electronic today, so they'll get manifest and they'll see the shipments. Rarely do they not ask for a shipment to come off, so they'll select, maybe not every single container
see.
will have to come off, but they'll say, I wanna see, container 3 and container 10.
I got
And then you might have to
That.
unload the whole airplane to get to container 3 or 10.
Right.
But, that's,
Okay. Sorry, I kind of jumped in on those questions. Alderwoman Behringer.
Do we have any idea how many jobs this might create?
he was asked that at the commission when we presented to the airport commission. He had his large team there, and he anticipated that initially when it would open, it would be about 100. But, and that was inclusive of workers that would be in the facility as well as brokers on the field to clear the customs, because you have companies that would also relocate and be on the field to be able to have their paperwork and stuff done. So he commented that he thought it would be 100 in the initial phase.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Alderman Moore.
Yeah, I was worried about that medical marijuana getting in here.
Well, that's out of Colorado.
Yeah.
But I mean, it might be
Well, that's what customs agents are for.
Okay.
And they do, you know, in addition to having the physical inspections, they also have the right to use K-9 to look for any drugs and/or illegal substance that may be coming through. So that's, you know, any flight that would need to be cleared, that would be their number one priority, is to ensure that what's coming in is legal product.
The 100 or so jobs, are they all gonna be American jobs?
Yes. Well, I take that back. There could be a handful that are companies that could relocate, that may have offices in Mexico, that want to actually have their broker on the field in St. Louis. So now whether they would hire a local or, you know, in addition send someone up, they could, but the majority of those
It won't be like a sweatshop, it'd be some
No.
prevailing wages.
No, those would all be, yes, they would all be prevailing wages. Those would all be
How many
shops.
buildings are involved in this? Just one?
No, technically there's 4 buildings over there, right, Mario?
There's
A, B,
four
C, and D.
buildings that, well, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's all of them?
Yeah, buildings 1, 2, and 3 all look like one building, but they're actually not. If you look here, this little box here, area here is building 1, and building 2 is here, and building 3, I'm sorry, 2's here and 3's here. And then there's a little building right about there, building 4, that would come down to.
Will that clear all of the old McDonald's site?
What their plans, sir, right now is to take down buildings 1 and 3 right away.
Okay.
2, they're basically leaving the outer frame and structure and the basement and basically gutting the inside. That facility is built like a bunker. Walls are like 4 feet with steel in them. I mean, it's really unbelievable. So
Okay.
instead of demolishing it, they're basically redeveloping the whole interior of it.
But Alderman Moore, there are some buildings to the west of that, that's not part of this development, of the 48 acres that we are in this agreement, that are still there and that will remain, that were original buildings. There's 2 paint booths. There's also part of the facility that Trans-States has their hangar operation in, and Airport Terminal Services is a fixed-based operator. Those facilities, which are just to the west of these 4 buildings, are not part of this development agreement.
Is there an environmental problem with any of those properties?
There is, and the developer will be required to clean up all of the environmental that's in the building itself. We do have a covenant with Boeing that requires them to clean up anything that is found in the soil.
Okay.
So, yes, and the developer has had a preliminary team, which is Hastings Environmental, what is Stacy's company? Environmental Operations. They have done the initial look at it along with Tarleton, which is another St. Louis firm, and they would be doing the remediation in there. And as I said, as we get into any soil issues, then Boeing does have to pay for the cost of the remediation in the soil.
When is the projected time of completion?
The first phase has got 3 years for completion. His goal is to complete it in 24 months. We would hopefully start this fall as soon as we get through all the processes. I think the remediation itself is about 9 months. That would have to occur first, and then they would go into the construction. Obviously, you know, he starts generating revenue into his facility when it's open, so for him, the sooner the better. All 3 phases must be completed in 8 years. Along the way, if the airport is not satisfied that he has met the commitments of phase 1, we have the right to not allow him to go to phase 2 or to phase 3. So we have all those protections in there as well. In the interim, we should make sure that people know, we could actually start receiving flights this summer or this fall. We would utilize those flights existing in our current cargo facilities. So we do have 2 smaller areas in Cargo City that are vacant, and that we don't have to wait for 2 years for the flights to start coming. As we grow, we obviously would need to grow into that facility, but we could start handling flights this summer or this fall in the existing area over at Cargo City.
Okay, we want our chairperson to arrange for a tour like we normally do.
We would love to do that.
And
Your chairperson will do that.
we want to do a river cutting at Vino.
We would love to have you come to Vino. That's a short construction. We hope to see that open by the fall.
We want to
And-
cut the ribbon.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
You are welcome. Alderman Vaccaro?
Yeah, I tried to research this company, but I don't seem to find them anywhere. Are they operating in any other airports?
they operate in the lot, but not binational air cargo. So the owner has had decades of family history in ocean shipping business and has decided to also branch out into the air cargo business. So he has formed this new company, Binational Air Cargo, to do that piece of it. But if you do the research on him as an individual, you'll see the other companies that he's been involved with for years, which is ocean shipping business.
I guess I have a lot of concerns, but, so his partnership, does he even have all his partners together, all his investment partners together on this?
Yes, he brought the majority of them to the airport commission, so, and introduced the team. He is using some of his own money as well into this, and then there's other entities that will be investment partners in it.
It would have been nice to see him, but, because I mean, I have concerns about it. I mean, I'm looking at the China, in my mind, the China deal. We spent tons and tons of money for
No,
what
we did not
was-
spend a dime of airport money on that, Mr. Vaccaro. So we didn't spend any money on that.
Okay.
It was a deal that unfortunately didn't last, but it wasn't, we did not spend airport dollars on that.
But we're not spending airport dollars
We are
here.
not.
In fact, we'll get $250,000 in rent in the
First
first year.
18 months, right.
And
Right,
then,
I read that part where and then after so many years, it goes to 500.
Well, it eventually goes to a 750,000 plus CPI index.
I don't know, like, 40 years seems like a lot of time, and then, like I said, I
Well,
would
there's-
like to have felt better that I knew that this, that I had more information in the sense, who his partners are, how this was gonna be funded, what happens 3 years from now if, I know you said 8 years, then we don't move forward, or 7 years, we don't move forward, but what happens in 3 years from now if nothing's been done?
We have the right to not move forward in 3 years.
I understand,
So
but,
let me make sure, from a funding standpoint, we are not funding this. So the airport has zero risk in this investment, zero. So we have a building in 49 acres that is sitting there today, rotting away, that's costing us to maintain it. This development agreement will have an individual come in that will take on all of those risks. Of that 77 million in phase one, and eventually the 150 to 170 million for all 3 phases, not a dime of that is airport dollars. So there isn't a risk to the airport. In year 3, if we feel that he hasn't met all the requirements and we choose to stop and not move forward, we have inherited everything that he's done to that point. So today, a
Clean up.
building, including, yes, that's true. So, in looking at this, and I can tell you, we have to meet FAA regulations. So when you're asking someone to spend $170 million, they actually wanted a longer lease than the 40 years. That was what we were comfortable with doing, that was what the FAA was comfortable with, because we do have to get FAA approvals along the way, since it's on airport property. But, for that kind of investment, that's not that long of a lease.
in here, where do I find it? In 3 years, if they haven't done anything, we can.
I don't know the
walk away.
page, Mario, you know the exact page?
Each phase has language in the agreement. If you go to each phase, I guess,
Mario is
This-
the airport attorney, so for those of you who have met,
601.
Mario,
if you go to 601, for example.
Page what?
Let me get to it. Give it to you in a second. On 601, page 23, if you jump down to 601B, each phase, one
Let me
phase.
let me get to page 23. I'm not that fast. Okay, and,
So if you look at, for example, 601B, drop down to the second paragraph, second sentence. If leasing fails to reasonably comply with the requirements of this section 601B, such failure shall not be deemed an event of default, but the city may, in its sole and absolute discretion, at any time, and this is very critical, at its sole and exclusive remedy, revoke leasee's leasehold rights to those portions of the phase one area, phase two areas, or phase three areas not be developed by leasee. The way this works is like in most developments of this nature, where someone's putting in tens of millions of dollars up front, as he will be doing. If at some point it doesn't make sense to
to proceed, for the economy, for whatever. His plans don't work out. So he's not able to go forward, and he's in default in essence. So what our avenues are is if we have a renter, if we have a use for that property, we can take part of it or all of it back. We can do it now, we can do it later, which is very favorable for us. So the risk to us, like Rhonda was saying, is this gentleman gets into this property and the worst case happens and he defaults and he does nothing but take down building 2, 1 and 3, and does some environmental, we'll be ahead a good $4 million. Because that's what it would cost us to remediate that site, take those buildings down. So for us, it's, our risks are very minimal. The worst case is we get rid of some old buildings and some environmental issues addressed, and hopefully that won't be the case. And we have other protections too. When they're constructing, there's performance and payment bonds, 100% that they have to have. So if he's in the middle of a project and can't go forward, there'll be bond money to complete those projects. So all the things you would expect to be in a good agreement of this type are in this agreement. The additional plus in this agreement, which is very unusual, is Rhonda pointed out, the rent on this starts prior to his attaining real use of the property. It automatically starts, a portion of the rent starts 50%, basically $250,000, 18 months into this agreement. So even if he's not using any portion of the property, the rent starts. That's very unusual. Typically in these agreements, it doesn't start until I have occupancy and I have use of the property. But we were able to get that, those terms too. So it's another way of protecting us. The rent starts early, and like I said, we have all those insurance and bonds that are necessary to keep us safe.
Okay. I guess after being burned with the McKee stuff and
No,
the city concerts that aren't happening and all the reassurances, I really would like to talk to them. I would like to talk to, I mean, everything you're saying, Mario, I trust you, I believe you. I don't get that warm fuzzy feeling, no.
Well,
Like I said, I'm sure it'll pass through here. I don't know that I can
One
vote
thing
for
I
it
think
without
is
seeing
key.
the people. I'd like to met them.
He's in Mexico right now, so he is down there trying to market his adventure, so he's in Mexico City, and, you know, it's challenging from a schedule. He would be more than happy to be here in the future if there's another opportunity, but right now, he's in Mexico working on getting the dual customs finalized and working on getting the customers lined up.
And it would have been nice to have had, I mean. it
I
just would
understand,
have
and
been
we
nice to
had, you know, we
had
did
that,
have it at
that's
the
all. I
airport
mean,
commission, which.
Well, I mean, not only that, to say, gee, these are the companies that I've lined up and I've got that dual, I mean,
Well, the dual customs is granted to the airport,
right,
not to
right,
him.
okay, my understanding, I mean, it would have been nice to have had more. I don't, like I said, and for what it's worth, I voted no on all the key stuff, I voted no on the concert stuff, just for the same reasons that, you know, I mean, we're always held accountable for when stuff doesn't work out the way we're told it's supposed to work out.
As am I.
Yeah, I know. And so, I get that, but anyway, I have no other questions, my problem would be that without.
You haven't met him and don't know
I'd
who
like
he
to know
is.
more, and if you wanna take it to another meeting, I certainly could be a yes vote, but just at this point would be more of a, you know.
Well, I think one way to look at this is that the airport's been sitting there with that property vacant for 11 or 12 years. And I guess people aren't beating down your door to rent it? Is that
No, we have tried to market, at least in the 5 years plus that I've been there, I can tell you, we've tried to market it almost every day. Because it's to everybody, any developer, manufacturer, cargo entity. We had a development agreement with Aeroterm. That was actually done before I got there. I signed it, but it was the work of Mario and the prior director who had put out an RFP for that. And they had 2 years to develop it, and, you know, they had a lot of hope that they wanted to, but at the end of the day, they opted not, and they wanted an extension on that agreement to give another 2 years, and we said no. we wanna, continue looking. So it is, I think the thing for us, and we've been working with this individual for the better part of 3 years now, but I think for us, it's finding a developer that believes in the mission that we do on the air cargo side. And so many of the other people really wanted the product there, and then they wanted to be the recipient of the product. Here is a gentleman who his entire life and 2 family generations before him has been in the trade business, in the ocean business, and so he's got the connections and he's got the vision to say, we can do this via the air, and I believe in St. Louis. He also is a resident in Clayton. He's married to an individual that's from Missouri, and they moved back here because she wanted her son to get to know Missouri, so they moved out of Texas and moved to St. Louis, so they live in Clayton. They've been here for about 3 years now, and so he is in the community a lot. He's here a lot. His wife is actively involved as well in the community, or I should say in the Clayton community and in the arts world around the region. But I think for us, it was somebody who saw the vision that we did and the value of what cargo can mean, and because of his background, he believes he can make it work, and he's willing to put the investment in.
Okay, any further questions? No, that I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we pass board bill number 55.
Second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman Behringer.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Vaccaro.
No.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Chairwoman Cruzen.
Aye.
4 aye votes, 1 no vote. Do pass.
Thank you.
Votes, you pass this out.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time this morning.
So can we only exit out the front door?
Take care of it now.